Hare Krishna. So today is the disappearance day of our revered, most beloved spiritual master Om Vishnupad, Srila Bhakti Rakshak Sridhar Dev Goswami Maharaj, the foremost amongst the disciples of His Divine Grace Om Vishnupad, Srila Bhakti Saraswat Thakur, Srila Prabhupada. So we are broadcasting live from the Sri Chaitanya Saraswat Math, East London, as I was requested to do so by various devotees, and so trying to get this to go. Oh, there we go. Their lordships, Sri Guru Gauranga Radha Sham Sundar, Srila Guru Maharaj's own deities, sent here by his lotus hands, by his divine order. Very shocking experience for us to feel his separation. Early in the morning, I had a call from Purnananda Prabhu in Navadvip, and then later on, not far later on, maybe half an hour, Dwarakesh Prabhu called me up to give me the same news. It was, for us, it was something that we never thought would happen. Although it was kind of crazy because Guru Maharaj was very elderly and almost invalid, couldn't see anything practically, but his mind was still extremely sharp. But we always thought that there wouldn't be a time when he wasn't with us. It was just like inconceivable to us. So when he passed, then that was a big shock to everyone. And I remember that we made a festival in the temple. The temple was then in Blackheath, 49 Dinsdale Road. And we made a festival. All of Guru Maharaj's disciples in the UK more or less came there. And I remember that myself and Rajendra Krishna Prabhu, that's Bhakti Seema's father, we cooked everything that day. And all the time, every one of us was just crying. We couldn't stop crying. It was very shocking. But at the same time, we understand that Guru Maharaj was leaving the manifest Navadvip Dham and entering into the non-manifest Navadvip Dham for the continuation of his eternal service to his spiritual master Om Vishnupad, Srila Bhakti Saraswat Thakur. And we had the fortune of connecting with Guru Maharaj in 1982, most of us, and from then until his passing, we would meet Guru Maharaj or go to stay with Guru Maharaj at least once every year. And at that time, I wasn't married or didn't have any real commitments in the world, so it was easy to go there. And also it was not so expensive and to fly there. And actually when we first went there, you didn't even need a visa. If you were British, you could just go there, live there forever if you wanted to. But then after Indira Gandhi was murdered, that's when they introduced visas for British people. And that was only meant to be a temporary thing, but then they realized it was a big money maker, so they continued it and have continued it ever since. but quite easy to get that. And so we were fortunate that we could spend some time with Guru Maharaj every year and hear directly from him. And he was very affectionate to the Western devotees, particularly at that time. As Srila Govinda Maharaj would say, now Guru Maharaj is in his benevolent grandfather Leela, if you like. So grandfather, he's very affectionate to the children, because he can give them back to the parents, but grandfather always very affectionate, maybe more affectionate. And so that he was like in that part of his life. And if we were fortunate, we would hear every day something from him if he was not feeling ill, too ill. In fact, sometimes he was feeling too ill, but Srila Govinda Maharaj would persuade him to come and talk to us. Oh, Maharaj, they've come from so far. They've just come to see you for a short time. You just come and sit with them. 5 minutes, they'll be happy. You don't even have to say anything. Just come and sit for 5 minutes. And so Guru Maharaj would agree, and he would come, he would sit in his chair or on his cot, and inevitably, when we're all, these eager young faces looking at him, inevitably he would say, "Any questions?" And then some question would come. And Guru Maharaj would answer that question. Or sometimes he wouldn't answer the question. Sometimes he would just talk about something completely different to what the question the person had asked. Almost, it seemed sometimes not even connected with that person's question. But Guru Maharaj wanted to say something, so we felt ourselves very fortunate to be able to hear from him as often as we could. And then, some of my godbrothers would say to me, "Oh, you're here in India, why don't you come to Vrindavan? Go to Vrindavan and spend some time there." And I'd say, "What will I see in Vrindavan when Guru Maharaj is sitting here in Navadvip?" And okay. And they would go to Vrindavan and I would stay with Guru Maharaj. Most of us, we would stay with Guru Maharaj and to hear from him. In fact, the first time that I went to Vrindavan was with Govinda Maharaj, after Guru Maharaj's disappearance. And that time, Srila Govinda Maharaj, he restarted the Vrindavan Parikram, which he used to carry out for many years, but then he had to stop as his service to Guru Maharaj became much more intense, as he was like Guru Maharaj's caregiver and doctor. So he would look after Guru Maharaj personally, and so then the Vrindavan Parikram stopped. And also they used to do the Char Dham, Parikram of the Char Dham, and Badrikashram, and different, Jamunotri, Gangotri, all of that. But at least we went that time to Govardhan and Vrindavan with him. But before I had not gone, but just heard every time from Guru Maharaj. And I think that was very valuable. And sometimes I was lucky enough to get some seva for Guru Maharaj. I was kind of a bosom friend of Guru Maharaj's secretary at that time, so he would always put me forward if there was some service to do. And a lot of that was very kind of analog service, because there was no email or, mobile phones or anything in those days. So if Guru Maharaj wanted to send a letter to somebody, one of his godbrothers, like often Madhav Maharaj, Bhakti Doita Madhav Maharaj, his mott is in Calcutta, near to Kalighat. And so he'd send me there with an actual letter, written letter. He didn't write it himself, but he would dictate, and they would write, and Guru Maharaj would sometimes sign that. And so I got the fortune of meeting many of Guru Maharaj's godbrothers in that way, although I was never privy to what the letter said or what the reply was either, but just the courier. I was just the courier. But I felt very happy for that. And we would hear so many things from Guru Maharaj, and so many of those things that we've heard have now become books. Search for Sri Krishna, Reality, The Beautiful, Sri Guru and His Grace, The Golden Volcano of Divine Love, The Lord's Loving Search for His Lost Servants, and the Subjective Evolution of Consciousness, and Sermons of the Guardian of Devotion, volumes 1, 2, 3, and 4, and so many different books, little books that were published from those recordings. And Guru Maharaj is always being recorded. Even you can see in this photograph here, this was on his Vyasa Puja, and he's gone downstairs to the Nat Mandir, and you can see there's a cable with a microphone up to by the top of the garland there. And sometimes, and usually Guru Maharaj was very tolerant, because so many devotees used to mic him up, and then they'd put their little Walkman recorder next to him on his asan, but now and again he'd just throw them off. What is this? You think you've captured me with your tape recorders. But generally he was very tolerant of that, because he knew that what he had to say was important, and that it would be preserved for posterity, and would be helpful to the aspiring devotees for a long time to come. Even after his own passing, he knew that. So he allowed that. In fact, one time he said, I was born to preach Krishna consciousness in the English language. So Guru Maharaj was highly educated. Before coming to the Gaudiya Math, he was a barrister, and he was an advocate for Mahatma Gandhi's Home Rule movement in Calcutta. And while working there, every night on the way home, he was looking. He'd received a book. He said he received a book which was called Lord Gauranga, and it's written by what's his name? Ghosh. I forget his name now. Anyway, but it's written in English, and another version, same but translated, or rather the other way around, written in Bengali and then translated into English. And that book is still available from Bharatiya Vidya Bhavan. They published that book. And as far as I know, it's still available. And it's called Lord Gauranga, the English version. And the Bengali version is Amya Nimai Charita, I think. And Guru Maharaj said, when I read that book, he said, I devoured it like nectar. And he said, it is not completely accurate. The historical points, not exactly right. And also the Siddhanta, or the philosophy, not entirely right. But he said, the mood of that book captured him. And then so after that, and we asked Guru Maharaj, could we read that book? He said, yeah, you can go through that book. And after that, he said, I'm always looking, where are the followers of Chaitanya Dev? Where are they? And then, so one day he said he was coming home from his office, and he said on a lamppost there was a poster, and it said, month-long festival of Hari Smaranam at the Bagh Bazar Gaudiya Math, near to the Pashupatinath temple. And he thought, oh, Gaudiya Math, that must be the Shishu Kumar Ghosh. That's the name of the author. Shishu Kumar Ghosh just came. But so when he saw that poster, he thought, oh, these must be the followers of Chaitanya Dev. And so he made a note of everything there, and he went there. The next evening he went there. And he said, when I arrived, maybe 4 o'clock in the afternoon, and he said, there was nobody there, just a man on the gate, like the gatekeeper man, you know. And he said, oh, where is everybody? And he said, and that man was asleep also at the gate. And he said, I woke him up. Where is everybody? What's happening here? And he said, oh, they're on Nagar Sankirtan with Srila Prabhupada, meaning Saraswati Thakur. So then he said, they're coming soon. So Guru Maharaj sat with him, and very soon, like a big Sankirtan party came with at the head, Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakur, and Guru Maharaj said, very lofty figure, tall, slim. And he said, when I saw him, I immediately thought, here is a man who doesn't care for anything in this world, or anything of this world. He doesn't care for anything of this world. And he said, as he arrived, they came, someone took his danda, and received him in this way, and then gradually he, entered with the devotees there. When Guru Maharaj was telling this, then someone said, oh, did he lead the kirtan? Like, was he leading the kirtan? And Guru Maharaj said, Guru Maharaj? Singing in the kirtan? Impossible. He said, although I've written in the song we sang earlier, that he's the personification of Hari Kirtan, we never ever saw him sing in the kirtan, like ever. And then Guru Maharaj said, maybe because he didn't have any teeth. But he laughed. Like that. But anyhow, so then Guru Maharaj started coming there, and to the Bagh Bazar Gaudiya Math. This was like, I think 1925, first time when Guru Maharaj came there. And he said, I started coming every evening, and he said, the devotees there thought, this man is so enthusiastic, he must be a spy from the government, because no one's that enthusiastic, right, for Krishna. But Guru Maharaj was, and so they were a little bit suspicious of him. One day when Guru Maharaj was there, then he started, Saraswati Thakur's quarters are on the first floor. And if you're watching in America, that's the second floor. We call the ground floor, and the next floor, first floor. Americans call the ground floor the first floor, and the second floor, next one, the second floor. So just in case there's any confusion there. Saraswati Thakur's quarters were up. And so one day Guru Maharaj started to go up the stairs, and somebody stopped him, like, hey, where are you going? What do you think you're doing? And he said, oh, I want to see Guru Maharaj, I like it very much, Guru Maharaj said. And he said, no, never. That man said, no, never. You always stay here behind this line, and only if you're called can you go up those stairs, Otherwise, never go there, never, like really. And Guru Maharaj said, I thought, why would a sadhu speak like this, Then he thought, I don't understand this. Then he thought, oh, I have to go, and was very disturbed by that. I have to go and take a walk. So Guru Maharaj said he walked down by the Hooghly, means the Ganges, where it flows through Calcutta. It's called the Hooghly. And he said, walking down there and to cool my head, and then he said, I'm thinking, I'll not come here again. Why should I come here again if this is like heaven going to treat me, Why would I come here again? And he said, although I was thinking like that, it kept coming in my mind about Shukadev Goswami, that Vyasadeva wanted him to finish his education, so he sent him to Janak Raj, Maharaj Janak, who's a Raja Rishi, to finish his spiritual education. And then when Shukadev arrived at the city of Janak Raj, then he said he was stopped at the first gate and was, is your business here? They questioned him everything. I'm coming to meet with Janak Raj. He knows it's all been arranged. My father's Vedavyas, and it's all being arranged. And then they said, okay, and they sent a message. Right? You wait here. They sent a message. Then the message came back. Ask him to wait. So Shukadev waited for 7 days. After 7 days, the man at the gate said, you may pass. And then he went to the second gate. And there he was made to wait another 7 days. So, and there were 7 gates before you got to Janak's palace that he had to pass through. And at each gate he was made to wait 7 days. So 49 days he was made to wait. And did so, patiently, without complaint. Then Guru Maharaj said, this kept coming in my mind like this. And he said, then I resolved, if there's nothing of any value here, even if they put me on the throne and offer puja to me, I won't stay. But if there is something valuable here, and I think there is, then even if they beat me with their shoes, I'll stay here. I'll stay. So then Guru Maharaj returned there. And after some time, visiting day by day by day, they got to know him. He was Ramendra Babu. His name was Ramendra Chandra Bhattacharya. And he was coming every day and waiting in the waiting area. And one day, Saraswati Thakur was walking upstairs, and he saw Guru Maharaj there, and he told his attendant, who is that gentleman? He said, that's Ramendra Babu coming. He comes every day. Then go and ask him, does he have anything he wants to say? And he told, Guru Maharaj wants to know if you have anything you want to say. No, I don't have anything I want to say. Went back. He says he doesn't have anything he wants to say. Then ask him, does he have any question? And he came back. Guru Maharaj wants to know, do you have any question? No, I don't have any question. He went back again. He says he doesn't have any question. Then ask him, what's his purpose for coming here? He came back. Well, Guru Maharaj wants to know, then what is your purpose for coming here? You have nothing to say, you have no question. What's your purpose for coming here? And Guru Maharaj said, yes, of course, without purpose, nothing can happen. So, and the reason that I've come here is just to get the grace of you all. That's what I want. That's why I've come. Then they told that to Saraswati Thakur, and then he said, ask him to come and meet me, speak with me. So Guru Maharaj went and spoke. They spoke, and he asked him, where you're from. You were born in Goramandala, you're very fortunate, and your family are very high Brahmin, Bhattacharya, like that. He said, then please continue to come. Then Guru Maharaj was coming every day, and then he said, so I'm thinking, after meeting Saraswati Thakur, I'm thinking, this is what I want to do with my life. This is where I want my life to go. I want to come and become his disciple. And Guru Maharaj said, from a young age, maybe 14 years old, I wanted to be a sannyasi, even from then. He said, but, then my mother and father, they arranged my marriage. Actually, he said, my father, on his deathbed, he called me to him on his deathbed, and he said, because I was the oldest son, he said, oh, please, you marry now, you marry. And he said, I could understand by how he was looking at me, that he just wanted me, even if it was a lie, to say that I would. Said so that, he could die peacefully, like feeling peaceful, like that. But Guru Maharaj said, I never told a lie in my entire life. So I couldn't tell a lie. He said then, but when he said, you please marry, and then he said, it came from my mouth, I'll try. And he said, and my father passed away almost a broken man. He said, disappointed with me, broken man, like this, he said. Anyway, my marriage was arranged by my mother, and so he's living with his wife in Calcutta, and his two brothers and his sister. They're all living in some apartment, and but he had no children then. Then he said, then I'm thinking, if I leave home and join this mission here, what will become of those who are like I'm living with? He said, well, my brothers, they'll be okay. They've all got, good jobs and, their own families. They'll be okay. My sister will be okay. But my wife, what about my wife? Then he said, and it came in my mind, if she were to die, then I'd be free to join the mission. And then he said, then I banished that thought from my mind. What a terrible thing to think. And he said that, but when I came home that night, everyone came out white-faced, ashen-faced, like, your wife has become very ill. And, and she had consumption. And within 2-3 days, she passed away. He said, then then it was coming Gaura Purnima, and I had a personal invitation from Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati to attend the Gaura Purnima festival in Mayapur. And he said at the same time, he said my mother had gone to Haridwar for the Kumbh Mela, and he said she was also near to her passing. And she said, so that at the very same time, call came for my mother to attend her there in Haridwar, maybe for the last time. Then, he said, so I was in a dilemma. What shall I do? Shall I go to meet my mother? Maybe for the last time, or shall I accept the invitation of Saraswati Thakur? And he said, then I considered deeply that this is the direction of my life that I wish to take. So ignoring my mother's call, I went for the Gaura Purnima festival. And it's a very happy atmosphere there when I went there. At the Chaitanya Mott, maybe some of you have been there. Then he said, there was old Tirtha Maharaj there, Bhakti Pradeep Tirtha Maharaj. He was giving a lecture. Then someone else was canvassing donations, and someone else was doing kirtan. Very productive and happy atmosphere. And he said, and Prabhupada Saraswati Thakur there, sitting in a canvas chair, then listening to all the kirtan and everything. And he said, then, when the festival was over and everyone was leaving, they're all coming to make their obeisance to Prabhupada Saraswati Thakur. And Guru Maharaj said, I saw that if anyone will, give Dandavat Pranam, like down on the floor, he would also give Dandavat Pranam to them. And he said, oh, when I saw that, I thought, oh, I don't want him to get down on the floor for me. So he said, when I came, like in front of him, I just did pranam like this and went. And then one of the devotees said, oh, how come you didn't do like proper dandavat? And he said, no, because I saw that if I did that, he would do that. And I didn't want him to have to trouble for that. And that devotee said, oh, if that's the case, that's very good. That's a very good thing. Anyway, he said, but he heard, as he's going, Saraswati Thakur saying, oh, you people, don't deceive me. Why are you deceiving me? And Guru Maharaj said, I was very acute listener. Then I'm thinking, what does he mean by that? People don't deceive me. No one deceiving him. They were invited for the festival. Festival's finished now, everyone's going home. So, like, where's the question? He said, but I wanted to understand what he meant by that. So I took my seat somewhere nearby him. And then he expanded on that and he said, oh, you have all entered into some relationship with me, promising that you will serve Lord Krishna. And now you're all going away. And he said, because I believed your promise, I have entered into a relationship with you. Now you're deceiving me, going away. And he said, and then if you say, well, I have some business I have to attend to. If it means that, my house is on fire, or there's some fire that I have to put out, and when that's all done, then I can come to you. And he said, then I say to you, if the world is on fire, let it burn. Let it burn. Then you will understand you have nothing to do with this world. You won't need to give your time to all these burnt things. Then every necessity can be served by worshipping Lord Krishna and alone. Then this way. Then Guru Maharaj said, I also going away. But I'm thinking, because actually his mother passed away while he was there. Then he said, I know, being the eldest son, she was afraid that I would become a sannyasi and not do her shraddha. And he said, so then I had to take care of that. I completed her shraddha. And then after that was done, I returned to the mott. And he said, and my two brothers, they also came with me. And we all joined together. He said, but then, after a little while, both my brothers left crying. It was Guru Maharaj's expression. They left crying, but I stayed. So then that was Guru Maharaj joined there. And then he was initiated by Saraswati Thakur, and who changed his name from Ramendra Chandra to Ramendra Sundar. And Guru Maharaj, of course, Guru Maharaj was a scholar, Sanskrit scholar, and so on. So he knows the meaning, but he wants to hear from Saraswati Thakur, what is your meaning behind Ramendra Sundar? And he said, well, your name, Ramendra Chandra, that means Dasarati Rama, the consort of Sita Devi, Ramchandra. But Ramendra Sundar, that means Krishna. That means Radha Ramana Rama, who gives pleasure to Srimati Radharani. So Ramendra Sundar means Krishna. So exclusively Krishna, not Ramchandra of Ayodhya. Exclusive connection with Lord Krishna. So and at the time of his initiation, Saraswati Thakur quoted the famous verse from Bhagavad Gita, whatever a great man does, lesser men will follow his example. He said that when Guru Maharaj was initiated. And Guru Maharaj his life, you can say, life as a brahmachari began then, and he was sent with the more senior devotees for preaching. And then Bon Maharaj, who was like the head of his party, he told Saraswati Thakur, because he was given the service as a canvasser. It was like, like getting people to come to the meeting and like that and give money and all of this. And he said, and Bon Maharaj said to Saraswati Thakur, he's not a canvasser, he's a preacher. You should engage him for preaching, because he preaches very fine, in a very fine way. So that was done. Guru Maharaj became a preacher with the preaching parties. And then they had, at that time, the Gaudiya Math, they published a monthly magazine called the Gaudiya, and a daily newspaper called the Nadia Prakash. And one of Saraswati Thakur's friends was the editor of the Amrit Bazar Patrika, which is I believe still going, a newspaper, Bengali newspaper. And he came to visit Saraswati Thakur, and he said, how is it possible that you can produce a daily newspaper about spiritual subject matters? And Saraswati Thakur said, I don't understand why you're so bewildered by that, because you're the editor of a daily newspaper. Is there a day when you don't have any news to publish? And he said, no, never. There's always news to publish. And he said, and that's from the material world. Do you not think there's news from the spiritual world? And we're publishing that every day. Okay, so he was satisfied. Anyway, then Guru Maharaj was also, as I mentioned before, a scholar, Sanskrit scholar, and he composed many songs and poems both in Sanskrit and Bengali. And but one that they published in the Gaudiya was called Bhakti Vinod Viraha Dasakam. There's 12 verses in the separation of Bhakti Vinod Thakur. Bhakti Vinod Thakur was the father and spiritual master of Srila Bhakti Saraswati. And when Saraswati Thakur read that, he asked, who wrote this? And so, Sridhar Maharaj, he wrote that. And Saraswati Thakur said, no, he did not write it. Bhakti Vinod Thakur wrote it through him. It is so fine, that composition. And Guru Maharaj would say, I believe that was the cause of his affection for me, that particular song that I wrote. And it's very deep. We have it in our songbook. It's very deep, the meaning. Anyway, so yeah, then later, when Guru Maharaj was traveling with Saraswati Thakur, then Saraswati Thakur asked him, you please go and find that place where Mahaprabhu met with Ramananda Rai and spoke. It's known as Ramananda Samvad from Chaitanya Charitamrita, and a very important discussion recorded by Krishnadas Kaviraj Goswami. So that was on the banks of the Kaveri River, and so Guru Maharaj was sent to discover that place, and then on the day that he sent him, Saraswati Thakur again changed his name. From today you are Ramananda Das, he told him, and you'll find that place. And Guru Maharaj found, with the help of the local historians and geographical periodicals and other things, he was able to find that place. And later Saraswati Thakur came and installed the footprints of Mahaprabhu there. And then even later than that, they opened a mott there, right on that where that is. The river's here, and on the bank of the river, they opened a mott there, which is known as the Ramananda Gaudiya Mott. It's still there. And but that was later. That was after Saraswati Thakur. Saraswati Thakur just installed the footprints of Mahaprabhu there. Anyway, then Guru Maharaj returned, and Saraswati Thakur then wanted to give him sannyas. So he was given sannyas, and he received the name Bhakti Rakshak Sridhar. And he said in the scripture, there it is told in Chaitanya Charitamrita, Eka Sridhar Swami Eka Bhakti Rakshak. That means the original commentator on Srimad Bhagavatam, Sridhar Swami, Mahaprabhu considered his commentary to be the perfect commentary on Chaitanya, on Srimad Bhagavatam, and that verse is recorded there. And quoting that verse, then he told, your sannyas name is Bhakti Rakshak Sridhar, and which is we translate as the guardian of devotion. And also, after reading his compositions in Sanskrit, Saraswati Thakur told, one day he was giving a lecture and he was telling like the names of all the prominent devotees that were present there. Guru Maharaj was there, and so he's telling this one, and then he says, and Shastra Nipuna Sridhar Maharaj, he was there. And Shastra Nipuna means genius of scripture. His Guru Maharaj called him that, genius of scripture. Then, of course, in the last days of Saraswati Thakur, then Guru Maharaj was present there with him. Previous to that, he'd sent two preachers, actually three, but two sannyasis and one Grihastha devotee was sent to London, and they established a mott, a small house in Cricklewood, and that was Bhakti Pradeep Tirtha Maharaj. Bhakti Pradeep Tirtha Maharaj was the disciple of Bhaktivinoda Thakur and first sannyasi of Saraswati Thakur, and also Bhakti Hridoy Bon Maharaj. So those were the two sannyasis sent there, and he had another disciple whose name was Sambidananda Das, who was studying to be a lawyer in London, and so he was helping them, and he wrote his PhD thesis on the religion and philosophy of Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. When he submitted his PhD thesis to the board, they refused to give him the PhD. They said, oh, because you've referenced this Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati so much that we think that this is his philosophy, not your philosophy, like his work, not yours. And then Saraswati Thakur, when he heard that, he wrote a letter to the examining board in London, at London University, and said, actually, all of my original thinking on formulating this religious movement I got from him, from Dr. Sambidananda. And with that letter, then they gave him his PhD. So, anyway, those three, they were preaching here. But Bon Maharaj, he got very much, let's say, affected by the West. And, in Guru Maharaj's words, he came back to India as a Pakka Sahib. Sahib is, they used to use that to describe the English gentleman, right? The English master is Sahib, and his wife is Mem Sahib. They used to go. But later, after the British had gone from there, it became a kind of derogatory term. And I remember when I was at the Mott in Navadvip once, and the kirtan leader, his name was Dal Govinda, but he was blind. Actually, when I first went there, he wasn't blind, but he became blind. And the kirtan leader before him, Madhu Mangal Prabhu, he was blind. So it seemed like it was the fate of whoever was the kirtan leader to be blind. But anyway, so this day, he's leading the kirtan, and we're doing parikram in the morning, you know. And so I pick up a pair of kartals, thinking I'm a pretty good kartal player. And I start playing them, and he starts shouting, "Hop! Hop! Who is that? Who's making that racket?" You know. And I remember that there was one devotee leading him around by the arm, because he can't see. And I whispered to him, but I heard, "It's a sahib, it's a sahib." And okay, it's one of the sahib. All right, then you stop shouting. But after that, I never played the kartals in the kirtan there again. But anyhow, so Guru Maharaj said when Bon Maharaj came back, he was a Pakka Sahib. When he returned from London, he'd thrown his danda into the Thames, and was wearing a suit and tie, and big leather shoes. Guru Maharaj's expression, suited and booted, and they made a reception for him in Bombay. He came on the ship to Bombay, and they made a reception, citizens' reception, and he's wearing, you know, like a suit and a tie, and they said, the press was there and everything. They said, "Wow, Maharaj, put your sannyas dress on at least for the photographs and everything." And he said, "Oh, no gentleman will enter a place of worship by taking his shoes off. That is not done." Anyway, they kind of persuaded him to do that. They took photographs, everything, and then afterwards, when they were like in the private room afterwards, then Guru Maharaj was there, and also Srila A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami, he was there too, but he was a grihastha then. There's a photograph, you might have seen the photograph, and Prabhupada is sitting if you're looking at the photo, in the right hand side, he's sitting right in the corner there, and he's got this like big handlebars moustache. Have you seen that photo? Anyway, so he was there, Guru Maharaj was there. Guru Maharaj, you can't see Guru Maharaj in the photograph. And anyway, so afterwards, Prabhupada said to him, "What happened to you, Maharaj? Like, what happened?" And he said, "Oh, they have questions that we cannot answer." And then Guru Maharaj said, "So what are those questions?" And then he had like 20 questions that he was unable to answer, philosophical questions or whatever they were. And I don't know what the questions were, but Guru Maharaj answered every one of those questions, and very very authentic and proper way. He answered all those questions. And then Prabhupada, Swami Maharaj, Guru Maharaj said, he jumped up on the table, and with his arms raised, he said, "Today, Europe has been conquered by Asia." But anyway, then Saraswati Thakur was very displeased, because he wrote a letter telling them he was closing it all down, and he was kind of like in England, he was like adopted by the what do they call it? The Women's Institute. They kind of adopted him, and they would take him to the seaside and make tea and cakes for that was the thing the Women's Institute did. And then when he also went to Germany, and he was going to meet Hitler. Actually, it was World War II, and he went to Berlin, and he was going to meet Hitler, but he said Hitler was too engaged, and he was making some campaign, so he wouldn't come and see him. He said so. He met was it Goebbels, who was his the propaganda minister. They met him instead anyway, because apparently Hitler liked Mahatma Gandhi very much, and they tried to Goebbels tried to portray Hitler as like a kind of sadhu. Like, oh, he's a a lot of people say, oh, he was a vegetarian. It's not true. He was not a vegetarian, but they like to portray that, And that's what often when people want to say something against being vegetarian, they go, well, Hitler was a vegetarian, But actually it wasn't true, because I read a book or, an article written by his cook, and she lists all the things that he loved to eat. It was all sausages. That was his big thing, right? All those German sausages. He used to like to eat those. But anyhow, but Goebbels wanted to present him as this kind of sadhu type figure. So anyway, but when he went to Germany, he wrote 2 books there. And it was like My Time in Germany, Volume 1 and Volume 2. And those books were sent to Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati, who went through them, and he said, oh, no mention of this poor fellow in either of those books. Like he'd not said anything about his guru in there. So, and anyway, then when he came back and he wrote this letter, because they had support from, like some of the aristocracy in London. And there was going to, actually, there was a Maharaj in India, I forget now, Bikanipur or somewhere, I forget. But anyway, he was going to fund the building to build a first Hindu temple in London through Bon Maharaj and Tirtha Maharaj. And but Bon Maharaj wrote this letter, oh no, we're closing it all down, we're not going to continue with the mission and everything. Then Saraswati Thakur was extremely displeased with him. And as it happens, at the time of his passing, Saraswati Thakur's passing, when Bon Maharaj wanted to come and see him, then Saraswati Thakur said, I do not want to even see his face. I consider him as a black snake. And what a terrible thing for your guru to say about you, right? Anyhow, so, but he wanted to send another preacher to London, to put things right. And he chose Guru Maharaj. He wanted to send Guru Maharaj to London. And asked Guru Maharaj, will you go? If I send you to London, will you go? And Guru Maharaj said, yes, I'll go. If you order me, I'll go. He said, but I submit to you that I don't think I'm the fit person to do that. He said, because I'm from a Brahmin family, and I don't know how to mix with people very well. I just lived in the village all my life, and I can't understand. Although Guru Maharaj could speak very good English, we all know Indian English and English, they're not the same thing, right? So he said, I can't understand their intonation. I don't know what their customs are, and I'm not very at ease mixing with everybody, Then he said, but I think if you send a Prakrita Prabhu, his godbrother, that will be a better choice, because he's like a man of the world. He knows how to mix with people, and you might get a better result with him. And that was who was sent. A Prakrita Prabhu was sent. He was, although in our mission, the title of Goswami is usually reserved for sannyasis. He was given the title of Goswami when he was sent by Saraswati Thakur, when he was sent to London. And so he came, Aprakrita Goswami. And later he took sannyas from Guru Maharaj, and his sannyas name was Aprakrita Bhakti Saranga Goswami. A very good devotee, came to London, and he had some success. Not success like Srila Prabhupada success, but something. He met with the King and Queen of England. He met with the Archbishop of Canterbury. And then we heard, Guru Maharaj told us that when he came, that same Maharaj who was going to pay for the temple, he was sponsoring him. Jai Shri Shri Guru Prabhu. He was sponsoring his trip to London, and the money ran out. So they'd rented this apartment for him in Kensington Gardens. right in the center of town. And but everything there was worked on a meter. It was gas. Even the lights were gas, right? So and you had to put money in the meter to get power. So his money had run out. Oh, so what to do? So he's just like, just taking Harinam, walking in the park, Kensington Park Gardens. He's walking in there. He sees, as he's walking through there, he sees something in the flower bed glistening. Oh, what's that? He goes over and he like digs it out, and it's a murti of Vishnu. And he took that back to his apartment, and it is, in Sanatan Shiksha, in Chaitanya Charitamrita, it explains like the names of all the Vishnus according to which hands they hold the weapons in. So from this he could understand, oh, this is Vasudeva. And anyway, he put it in his apartment, and some flowers from the offering like that. Then the landlord came and he says, oh, we found this letter. It had fallen down the back of the, like a cupboard that was in the hallway. But we think it must be for you because it's, from India. Oh yeah, okay, so they gave it to him. And in there was, from that Maharaj of Bikanipur, there was a check for £100. And back in the 1930s, £100 was a lot of money. So what does he do, right? So he takes it to the bank, in Bank of England in London, to cash it. And they look at it, and it says A.P. Banerjee, pay to A.P. Banerjee, which was his, legal name, right? And then but in which way was it around? Let me think. No, the check said Aprakrita Goswami, but his legal name was Banerjee. And when they wanted to see his identity, he showed the passport, and he said, "Oh, it's a completely different name. We can't pay the check. Sorry." So he's got this £100 check, no way of cashing it. So frustrated, he sat down in the bank, and then there on the table, the Times newspaper, and looking through that, there was a photograph of him meeting with the former Viceroy of India, the Earl of Jetland, and in the caption, it says, A.P. Goswami meets with the Earl of Jetland, or whatever it was, and very clear in the photograph that it's him. So then he took that to the teller, and he said, "You see, that's me, and that's the check is made out. That's what the name says in the newspaper." They cashed his check. They wouldn't do it today, would they? They wouldn't cash the check today, no matter what kind of proof you showed them. But anyway, then they cashed the check, and so he was there, and he, one lady, her name was Daisy Botal, and she took initiation from Saraswati Thakur, and she gave her house to Goswami Maharaj for preaching, and that house is still there in Willesden Green. There they have Vasudev Gaudiya Math there, the house that she gave. Anyway, so Guru Maharaj didn't come to London as a result of that. But although he said that it was because he didn't feel fit for it, and that's true, and one of the senior devotees asked him, "But you know why Prabhupada chose you, right? Why he chose you?" And Guru Maharaj says, "Yes, I have some idea." And he says, "No, the reason is because he knows that you won't be converted. You won't be converted. You'll remain in your position." And Guru Maharaj said, "Yes, I that was my thinking that he would do that." He said, "But not only that," Guru Maharaj said, intuitively I knew that he's not going to stay very long now in the world. He'll pass away soon. And when he passes, he will want me to be there. And it was true. So when the day that Saraswati Thakur passed away, Guru Maharaj said that we were sitting with him through the night. We know that any day now he'll pass. We're sitting with him in the night. And he said, we had like a different shift rota. My shift, he said, my shift was from 2 a.m. to 4 a.m. I would sit with him. And then he said, after my shift finished, then I'd go and I'd join the Mangal Arati. And then after Mangal Arati, I would go and take rest. Said so, but this morning, when I was leaving, then his servant came, Guru Maharaj is calling you back. So that never happened, but then I could understand, now he's going to leave the world. Guru Maharaj is going to leave the world. So Guru Maharaj went there, and so when he's sitting there, then Saraswati Thakur said, Sridhar Maharaj, you please sing Sri Rupa Manjari Pada. This song by Narottam Thakur is considered to be the highest expression song of our Sampradaya. And in our mott, nobody sings that song. That was Guru Maharaj's song, right? Sometimes Govinda Maharaj would sing on Guru Maharaj's or Prabhupada's Disappearance Day. And then we'd get, like opportunities to sing that. But we are never singing that of our own. This is too high for us, the purport of that. Anyhow, so Guru Maharaj said, he asked me to sing. And he said, I hesitated, as I'm not a good singer. He said, I was a good dancer. I could dance very nice in the kirtan. And we saw that sometimes, even in his last days. On some festivals he would come and dance in the kirtan. And it was very wonderful to see that, It's like 90-year-old man, like dancing in the kirtan. But anyhow, so he said, I'm hesitating to sing. And then Saraswati Thakur's secretary, Kunja Babu, he was later became Bhakti Vilas Tirtha Maharaj. And although he was a grihasta, even the sannyasis obeyed his instruction. Whatever he said, everyone would obey that, And in fact, we heard from Guru Maharaj that because he, his name was Kunjabi Hari, and when he joined the mission, he worked for the post office. And because he worked for the post office, he got many low rate loans through the post office, and he took out so many personal loans to finance Saraswati Thakur's preaching. So much so that he got in so much personal debt that he had to go and leave his family and go and work for 5 years in Burma to pay off that loan, which he did. And anyway, when at some point it came to the attention of some of the devotees, Kunja Babu's taking some money from the mission for his family, to look after his family. And so they came and they protested to Saraswati Thakur, I got to tell you this, right? Kunja Babu's taking money from the mission to pay for his family. And Guru Maharaj was the person deputized, if you like, to tell this to Saraswati Thakur. And he said, I think Saraswati Thakur was very disappointed in me for raising this. And when he told it, he said he became very serious, and he said, and you all find this objectionable? And they're like, yes, Maharaj, we do. Taking money for his family and his house and everything. Then Saraswati Thakur said to them, then if you find this objectionable, you can all leave and he can stay, because he's done more for this mission than any of you at his own personal expense. So you take something to look after his family, I have no problem with that. But if you have some problem, then you can leave. and he will stay. Anyway, so this was his position, and everybody knew, like, if whatever he says, he must follow that, you know. So then Guru Maharaj said, he saw that I was hesitating to sing. And saying that, he asked Pranavananda Prabhu Brahmachari, who was considered to be the best kirtan leader in the Gaudiya Math. He was later Bhakti Pramod Puri Maharaj. Anyway, he told him, you sing, Prabhu, you sing. And he started singing. But after maybe one verse or like that, a few lines, then Saraswati Thakur said, no, stop. I don't want to hear the sweet sound. I want to hear Sridhar Maharaj. And then Guru Maharaj began sing that song. And afterwards, that Bhakti Pramod Puri Maharaj, he wrote a letter to Guru Maharaj. And in that letter he said, when we witnessed that Prabhupada asking you to sing Sri Rupa Manjari Pada, all of us who witnessed that believe that was your initiation into Rasa Seva. And not only that, we felt there was a divine transmission where he's giving you the charge of the Rupanuga Sampradaya. And Puri Maharaj said in the letter, so I consider you to be Rupanuga Dara. Dara means like the current, you know, like the electric current or like that. Dara. That's coming through you. The line of Rupa Goswami, that's coming through you. Rupanuga Dara. And also in another essay that he wrote later on, I saw that Puri Maharaj said, who does not follow the teachings of Sridhar Maharaj, they cannot consider themselves to be a disciple of Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati. That was his, and you know, he was a very great Vaishnava. So anyway, that was also, Guru Maharaj understood that Saraswati Thakur would leave and that he would want him to be there. So that was one of the reasons why he didn't come to London. I wonder sometimes if he had come to London, like what would the world of Vaishnavism, Gaudiya Vaishnavism be today? But anyhow, of course, that was fulfilled by Srila A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Maharaj Prabhupada. And if you read his biography by Satsvarup Das Goswami, the first volume, which is called A Lifetime in Preparation. It was actually published second. The second volume was published first because he was still gathering information for the first volume. He had a lot more easily available history from like when after Prabhupada came to America. In there you'll find that Bhaktivedanta Swami Prabhupada, he says, from the very beginning I knew Sridhar Maharaj is a pure devotee of Krishna. And that Krishna and Prabhupada, meaning Saraswati Thakur, wanted him to prepare me. And it's very clear there. And when Prabhupada began his preaching in the West, he's writing report to Guru Maharaj all the time. And when he came back with some of his disciples back to India, the first place he came was to our Guru Maharaj's Math and stayed with Guru Maharaj there. And Guru Maharaj, actually Govinda Maharaj. Yeah. 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 You got to do the puja to Guru Maharaj. In a few minutes, you prepare that, please. So, what was I saying? Oh yeah, so then that's also very clear that Prabhupada, A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami, he considered Sridhar Maharaj as his guru, his Shiksha guru. And their relationship was very intimate. When he came to stay with Guru Maharaj with two disciples, Achyutananda and Ramanuja, they came with Prabhupada. and Guru Maharaj, they stayed in what we called the Blue House on the land of Guru Maharaj's temple. I believe it's white now, someone painted it, but we always called it the Blue House. Guru Maharaj also called it the Blue House, and Prabhupada, A.C. Bhaktivedanta with his disciples, they stayed there. Then one day, he told Achyutananda, I want to speak with Sridhar Maharaj. You please, go back to the house. And this is not for you, it's between us. So then afterwards, Achyutananda, he remembers, I asked Prabhupada, what did you and Sridhar Maharaj speak about? And he said, if I told you, you would faint. His realization about Krishna consciousness is very high. So, and Guru Maharaj left Achyutananda with Prabhupada left him with Guru Maharaj. And Guru Maharaj taught him. He said, I'm bringing, rough gems here, and you making them into diamonds. So before that, in ISKCON, they didn't know any of the songs, but Achyutananda learnt all those songs from being in our mott. And he made that record, and they made a songbook and everything, so everything they know they got from him. And he wrote about that. He wrote a book, Achyutananda. He was Achyutananda Swami then. He's not anymore, but he wrote a book, and the book was called Biography of a Jewish Yogi. It was Jewish. And at that time there was that book by Paramahansa Yogananda, Autobiography of a Yogi. That was very famous, that book. So, that was the title he was going to make for that book, Autobiography of a Jewish Yogi. But he never published it. But recently he published it, maybe 5 years ago or something. But he changed the title, and the title was Blazing Sadhus. Yeah, he called it Blazing Sadhus. And the subtitle was, Never Trust a Holy Man That Doesn't Dance. So anyway, that book is available, and I think even you can download it maybe online also. And it's a really good read. He's a good writer. But, the first chapter is about how he came to Krishna consciousness, and then there's maybe 3 or 4 chapters just about his time with Guru Maharaj. And I found it very inspiring, to read that. And everything that he learned from Guru Maharaj would go preaching with Guru Maharaj. Guru Maharaj was still going out in those days. And it's a very nice book. Guru Maharaj, yeah.
Srila Swami Maharaj, he read it when he was living in Swami Maharaj's house.
Not Premadama Devastotram, Prapanna Jivanamritam. It was Prapanna Jivanamritam. And his sister, Bhavantari Devi, or Pishima as the devotees call her, she paid for publishing that book. And that was one of the books that he brought with him from India when he came to America, Prapanna Jivanamritam. It was like Guru Maharaj's, you can say maybe his opus Dei, that the most crucial work that he wrote was that. And also you might be interested,
I saw in film. Prabhupada Swami Maharaj was reading.
Okay. Maybe.
And Guru Maharaj was sitting there and listening.
Oh, in the mott, in the mott, maybe, yeah. But anyway, Prapanna Jivanamritam was the book that he got his sister to pay for that, and brought that with him to America. And Premadama Devastotram is one of Guru Maharaj's great works. Srila Govinda Maharaj said it started out as an astakam, 8 verses, and then it became a dasakam, then a dwadasakam, and finally it's like 73 verses, and it's explaining or in poetry form the pastimes of Mahaprabhu from Chaitanya Charitamrita and Chaitanya Bhagavat. A very beautiful composition. I would say that composition, Premadama Deva Stotram, is Lord Chaitanya in poetry form. If you will read that. Prapana Jivanamritam, the life nectar of the surrendered souls, the book on Sharanagati, surrender. Guru Maharaj said, when I came to live alone, leaving the valuable company of my god brothers, then I had to search deeply what is the biggest necessity or the necessity in the life of a devotee. And my conclusion was that it is Sharanagati or surrender. That without Sharanagati, all of the expressions of devotion is just a form, no life there. Sharanagati is the life of devotion. Without that, this is just, a show. So then if you want to understand what is Sharanagati, that book is the book for you. And Srila Govinda Maharaj said, everyone should read that book every day. And also Guru Maharaj said we need to discuss this subject because it is very difficult for us to surrender to the Lord. So necessary to discuss that. And so, and many of Guru Maharaj's compositions, Guru Maharaj's commentary on Brahma Gayatri mantra. There Guru Maharaj said that Brahma Gayatri, every Hindu knows Brahma Gayatri, Ambur, Baba, Swasta, etc. But he said it must come, the meaning of the Brahma Gayatri must come to the same conclusion as Srimad Bhagavatam. It must be in the line of Srimad Bhagavatam. He said, then I researched that, and he said, this realization came to me in my old age, and I've given that commentary, and that's also available. And he said the conclusion of that, he composed 5 shlokas, and one of those shlokas, part of it's there on the logo on the window there. Gayatri Muralista Radhapadam Dhimahi. The Gayatri is telling us that we should worship and meditate on the service of Srimati Radharani. And that's the conclusion that Guru Maharaj came to. He said, I heard that Jiva Goswami had given some similar explanation, but I looked, I could not find that. So actually what Guru Maharaj's commentary, Bhasya, on Srimad Bhagavat, on Sri Gayatri Mantra, Brahma Gayatri Mantra, is a new revelation in the world that has not been given before by any Acharya in our life. Guru Maharaj gave that. So many different compositions that he wrote, and not least of all his books in the English language, which are taken from his talks. Srila Govinda Maharaj said, I consider the books published by Bhakti Sudhir Goswami, Search for Sri Krishna, Reality the Beautiful, Sri Guru and His Grace, The Golden Volcano of Divine Love, The Lord's Loving Search for His Lost Servant, and Subjective Evolution of Consciousness. Govinda Maharaj said, I consider these my 5 deities. These 5 deities that Sudhir Goswami gave me from Guru Maharaj. And many other books. They're very, very deep and given new life to the devotees, because Srila Sridhar Maharaj, he has a very unique way of expressing very complex philosophical ideas in very simple and understandable way. And also his style of speaking is very poetic and charming. So everyone that reads those books feels inspired and to go deeper into Krishna consciousness. So these are Guru Maharaj's contributions. to the world of theistic thought. His position is unassailable in the line of Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakur, and he established this Sri Chaitanya Saraswat Math to be the place of the pure line of Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakur. And as far as possible, we've tried to maintain that ideal. However, poorly we may be able to represent that. We are trying to represent that in a authentic way, not watering anything down or trying to make anything for cheap popularity or like that, but trying to represent him as Srila Govinda Maharaj would want that. And Srila Govinda Maharaj considered this London temple unique in the world, because outside of, actually the Navadvip Math, Sri Chaitanya Saraswat Math, was Guru Maharaj's place of bhajan. And all the other branches in India, they're called Krishnanushilanam Sangha. They're not called Chaitanya Saraswat Math. And in the time of Guru Maharaj, he only gave that name to one other place outside of Navadvip, and that was London Math. Sri Chaitanya Saraswat Math, London chapter. And he said, because my Guru Maharaj wanted me to preach in London, I was not able to do that, but still I consider that this is my own service. So if you can establish something in London in the name of Sri Chaitanya Saraswat Math, I will consider that as great service to my Guru Maharaj, Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakur. So we have tried to do that with his blessing and by the grace of Srila Govinda Maharaj. We've tried to do that and trying to maintain that in a, let's say, chaste way, authentic way. And I think that Guru Maharaj and Srila Govinda Maharaj will not be displeased with us. Although we know that our attempt is poor, and we are trying as much or as best as we can for that. So anyway, today Guru Maharaj's disappearance day, and that is Guru Maharaj said that there's a talk actually given by Guru Maharaj, and he says in that talk, now in the absence of my Guru Maharaj, should I wish to live a peaceful life? That's the question he says. This is actually in reference to the disciples of Srila A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Maharaj. They asked him this question. And he said, should you wish to live a peaceful life? He said, no. Now, when your Guru is no longer physically present, now the testing time will come. How much this creed has become part of who you are, or how much is it just lip deep? The test will come. And he says, just like the swordsmith knows that he has to keep putting that metal in the fire, and then they take it out and beat it, put it back in the fire and then in the water. And he said this constant submersion in the fire, that will make the steel of that sword unbreakable. He said, so in the absence of physical presence of our Guru Maharaj, now the buck stops with you. Like, how much is this actually what you believe, or how much of it is just a show? Then that test will come. And Guru Maharaj said, and not everyone will pass that test. But those that do, those that come through that fire of ordeal, their faith will be forged like steel. No one will be able to break that or interfere with that. And this is a necessary part of the evolution of the disciple. Because when Guru's present, easy, any trouble, you just go to him, right? Oh, don't understand this, or what shall I do about this? But when our Guru is no longer physically present, then what will we rely on? Okay, you can say you can look in the scripture, but not every answer is there. How much will you be able to represent what he has given you? How much will you understand that? And that will be the test for every disciple. Sooner or later, that's the real test. So we pray to Guru Maharaj that on his disappearance day, that he might be merciful to us, give his blessing to us, that we can continue in a proper way to try to serve him, represent him, and utilize us in that campaign. When someone asks Guru Maharaj, how can we please you? Then I think when they asked that question, they were expecting a similar reply to what Swami Maharaj Prabhupada would give. Whenever he was asked, how can we please you? His reply was always what? Distribute my books. Everybody knows that, right? That will please me if you distribute my books. So maybe they were thinking Guru Maharaj would give some similar kind of thing. But Guru Maharaj's reply was, first of all, he said, please me. Like why would you want to please? Oh, then he's like, oh, okay, Guru disciple, yeah, okay. Then he said, what I am living for, what I am for, what I have dedicated my life for, what I wish to spend my every breath for, my last drop of blood for, what I have learned from my Guru Maharaj. If you also will do this, that will please me. So, really, that's, wow, what an ask, what an ask. This is a big thing, it may sound simple, but it's a big thing. Someone asked Guru Maharaj, why do we see so many stalwart devotees leave the mission? Why? And he said, because it's not normal that the conditioned soul will be able to give 100% of himself for Krishna's service. This is not normal. It's very unusual that anyone can do that. But those who can. And I remember this very clearly, Srila Prabhupada, when I was listening to one of his lectures. In there, he says, in a very kind of pleading way, you have spent so many lives trying to make an arrangement in this world for you. So my request to you is, just give this one life for Krishna. Please try to give this one life for Krishna. Like, in other words, like, how's it working out for you, all this, this kind of selfish endeavor that you've been engaged in from time immemorial? How's that working out? So, we know that it's not fruitful ultimately, and so we have to try to give, if we can, try to give our life for the service of Krishna. And that was Srila Govinda Maharaj's, often he would say when he was giving initiation, from this day forward it is my expectation that every day you will serve Lord Krishna. From today, that is my expectation of you. So then,
visa officer.
yes. So yeah, we may be our birthright. Krishna consciousness may be the birthright of every living being, but you cannot go there without the visa. And the grant of the visa officer, that is Gurudev. He can grant that. And why will he grant that? As Guru Maharaj said, oh, you say my name, Bhakti Rakshak, that I am the guardian of devotion. He said, but I consider myself the gatekeeper. I want to see who wants to enter there. And I am not giving visa to everyone. So